is the day. We will know a whole lot by the time the dust settles.
Everything matters. That's where we win right here. Right on the field.
But where we want to be at the end of the season starts with our mentality and our attention to detail today.
Welcome into the weekly game preview brought to you by PSECU. I'm your host, Mitch Gerber. Coming up on today's show, we'll hear from head coach James Franklin as he addresses the local media. We'll go one-on-one with junior linebacker Brandon Smith, and we'll get you set for kickoff between Penn State and Villanova. Before we do that, let's take a look back at how Penn State improved to their 3-0 mark after defeating Auburn 28-20 inside Beaver Stadium this past Saturday. We're going to pick things up in the first quarter with some offensive weapons for Penn State. Little tight end play. You saw Brenton Strange right there, and now you see Theo Johnson connecting for Penn State down to the 4-yard line, and then Penn State would ultimately cap off their first scoring drive with a 4-yard connection between Clifford and Dotson in the back right corner of the end zone. That was just one of the great catches from Jahan Dotson on the night. Auburn would push back and make it a 10-7 game early in the second quarter, 12 minutes left, but Penn State's offense would come back out on the field and strike again. Just as I was mentioning, that Jahan Dotson-Clifford connection with Dotson having a couple of elite catches, there's another one right there. Chris Fowler said on the broadcast, that's over his head. Just kidding. Dotson with the catch. And now a little trickery from Clifford Dotson down to the left side. In the red zone now for Penn State. That's a touchdown for Brenton Strange. 2-yard touchdown with 1:23 left on the clock in the first half. 14 plays, 91-yard drive with 6:49 off the clock. Now here's out of the gate. Auburn would have a fumble recovered by Penn State. Penn State, after the first drive out of the gate, would have a red zone opportunity to open up the half. They absolutely took advantage. Tyler Warren, the redshirt freshman with a direct snap, 2-yard rushing touchdown. First touchdown of his career at the 13:06 mark in the third quarter. But it's Auburn that pushes back and cuts that Penn State lead to 4 early in the third quarter. And then Penn State's defense comes up with a big-time third down and one stop to end that third quarter. Flip the page over to the fourth, a 21-17 game. At that point, here we are, 21-20 with 12:57 left on the clock. How about John Lovett, running back, with a big-time play in the open field right there with a connection from Clifford. Back to the tight end room. Brenton Strange, who we spoke with after the game, said it was all about that connection between he and Clifford. Now you see right there, rushing touchdown for Noah, running back coming up with a big-time touchdown that would ultimately seal this game 28-20, and it was Penn State's defense that came up big time to ultimately seal that game. Penn State improves to 3-0 on the season and will now welcome in Villanova, who is also 3-0 on the season. Let's take a look at a couple of their big-time playmakers to watch for this weekend, starting with their quarterback. Number 12, Daniel Smith, has thrown for 598 yards and sits 7th in the FCS with 8 passing touchdowns on the season. Villanova, as I mentioned, has that 3-0 record on the season as they're coming off a 34-27 win over number 18 Richmond. Quarterback Daniel Smith connected with Rajon Pringle. How about that for a name? For a go-ahead 47-yard touchdown with just 38 seconds remaining in this contest that you're watching right here to ultimately come away with that win. The Wildcats gained 480 yards of total offense, including 350 of those through the air, as you see right there in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left on the clock. Smith also rushed for 2 touchdowns in that contest. Villanova undefeated, Penn State undefeated, as they will now square off inside Beaver Stadium this Saturday at noon Eastern on the Big Ten Network. Fast start to this show, as we'll hear from head coach James Franklin coming up momentarily for his weekly media availability, just as he does every single Wednesday. And then we'll visit one-on-one with junior linebacker Brandon Smith, who had another heck of a performance inside Beaver Stadium against that SEC opponent. The junior linebacker continues to improve. So if you have any questions for Brandon Smith, the Virginia native, please submit your comments, your questions for number 12 as he continues to lead that linebacker room. If you are coming to this weekend's game, make sure that you download your mobile tickets ahead of time to save some time entering the gate, just as those who have experienced it so far. The sooner that you download your mobile tickets to your Apple Wallet or Google Pay, the easier your game day process is going to be. If you've been able to speak to anyone around the stadium, internet connection on your cell phone, not great. Cellular connection, not great. Make sure that you download those ahead of time to save yourself some stress on game day. Also, if you're coming to the game this weekend, be sure to know exactly where you're going when it comes to the parking map. Here you see right here, whether it's north, east, south, or west, know exactly which lot you're going into, because that's also going to save you plenty of time on game day. And last but not least, we've got the mobile tickets downloaded, we've got your parking squared away, and the clear bag policy. Don't be that person that comes into the stadium with a non-clear bag and a lot of items in it. Make sure that that bag is clear. You can see the dimensions that it needs to be right there. And a couple of questions from the viewers so far throughout the season. These small clutch or wristlet bags are approved, so be sure to bring those and your clear bags inside Beaver Stadium. Have some fun and join this undefeated Penn State football program as they bring their 3-0 record into Beaver Stadium. If you're not able to join us, or if you are coming to the game and you're going to be at Team Arrival, come join us for the Unrivaled pregame show, which will get underway this Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. A nice early breakfast wake up with the Unrivaled pregame show, throwback to the 2020 season, the first edition of the Unrivaled pregame show. We are with you early in the morning, just as we will be this Saturday. We'll have live team coverage of the Team Arrival. We'll also hear from running backs coach Jaywan Sider as he'll join us live up on stage, and we'll get you set for kickoff with Steve Jones and some other select guests for that matchup between Penn State and Villanova. You got to look at the rest of the schedule right there, but as Coach Franklin talks about all the time with this program, it's all about the next game in front of them. Sneak peek, that Indiana game is going to be at 7:30 p.m. For those that didn't see that yesterday, it will be a primetime game, stripe-out edition for Penn State. So come have some fun with us inside Beaver Stadium as they wrap up a 4-game homestand to start this season before turning their attention towards that road game towards Iowa, which I know a lot of you already have circled on the calendar. But first, it's Villanova this Saturday at noon Eastern on the Big Ten Network. Steve Jones, the voice of the Nittany Lions, will join us here momentarily to get you set for kickoff between Penn State and Villanova. We saw a couple of those highlights for Penn State's victory over Auburn, and one of those individuals is Sean Clifford. If you haven't taken note of what he's been able to do the last couple of weeks, here's a highlight for you. Sean Clifford continues to improve and get comfortable in Penn State's offense. Spoke with offensive coordinator Mike Yursich about Sean Clifford earlier this week, which we will play that feature back to you towards the end of the show. But for now, you're getting a couple of looks at what made Sean Clifford so good in this game. That was his ability to move his feet, be on the run, connect with his top wide receiver, Jahan Dotson. They had plenty of highlight plays just like this. Jahan Dotson continuing to make a name for himself and make an argument as to why he is the top wide receiver in the country. If you agree, please submit that in the comments below. And once again, we want to hear all of your questions, your comments, anything that you have for us leading up to kickoff, as well as where you're watching this preview show from before Penn State ultimately gets ready for Villanova. You saw right there on the right-hand side of the screen, Penn State, our media team getting set up for head coach James Franklin as he will address the local media. Kevin, what's up, my man? Go State. Could not agree more. Hope you're having a great evening. Winston Eubanks, go number 89. Appreciate you tuning in. Waco, Texas, checking in from down south in Baylor land. It's good to see a Penn State fan down there. David checking in. We got Bob checking in from the state of Pennsylvania. All kinds of you all over the place. I think last Saturday when we did the Unrivaled pregame show, if you weren't able to catch that exclusive access, I believe we had somebody from Australia joining from watching their boat. So, again, appreciate all of you that tune in for the Unrivaled pregame show, the postgame show, our weekly preview. We reached over 235,000 people on Saturday alone last week. And so shout out to all the Penn State fans that are a part of this great presentation as we continue to bring you that exclusive access week in and week out. And I'm not going to lie to you, we were sitting in our production meeting today trying to figure out what to do for this Saturday, and somebody pitched the question, why don't we ask our viewers what they want to see? So for you avid viewers of Penn State football that tune into the pregame show and the postgame show, submit your comments below as far as what you want to see when it comes to the time that the team's arriving around the stadium, whether that's team arrival, the band, the cheerleaders up on stage, could be Coach Franklin doing his lap around the stadium and dapping up people like Saquon Barkley before he goes in there and stuff like that. That's all things that we saw last Saturday. As this Saturday will look a little bit different, but we'll still have plenty of fun. So be sure to submit your comments of exactly what you want to see with the Unrivaled pregame show. I believe we're going to have head coach James Franklin come up here momentarily if we can get a little sneak peek of that right there. So that's where James Franklin will do his weekly media availability. He does that every single Wednesday, and we enjoy bringing this as a part of the exclusive access for you guys every single week. For those that tuned into the press conference yesterday, you heard from head coach James Franklin as he addressed the media there. And now some follow-up questions for the media members that will be a part of that today. The bus arrival, appreciate you shouting that out for the Unrivaled pregame show. Bus arrival is always fun. Maybe we should try to get a camera down there and see the buses coming in rather than the team just walking in. That's a good production nugget for us right there. The team arrival, once again, will be featured on the Unrivaled pregame show, which will get underway this Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. But for now, we'll hear from head coach James Franklin, and then we'll visit one-on-one with junior linebacker Brandon Smith. I want to go back to a couple of those highlights for Villanova if we can, if you just missed the first half of the broadcast right here, to watch for some certain names this Saturday, and that specifically is their quarterback. Daniel Smith has thrown for 598 yards and sits 7th in the FCS with 8 passing touchdowns. Last weekend alone in their victory over number 18 Richmond, he connected with Rajon Pringle for the go-ahead score of 47 yards with just 38 seconds remaining. The Wildcats gained 480 yards of total offense, which included 350 of those through the air. Now, number 1, their running back Justin Covington ranks 4th in the FCS with 307 rushing yards, 11th with 102.3 rushing yards per game, and 9th with 6.98 yards per carry. So Villanova's offense and defense will have some playmakers, as we'll hear about from Steve Jones coming up here momentarily as he'll check in with us. But for now, you're getting a look at those highlights. And then on the flip side of the ball, Penn State's offense that we saw this past Saturday going up against the SEC opponent in Auburn will be back in action, which starts with quarterback Sean Clifford. But for now, let's toss it over to head coach James Franklin as he addresses the local media. There it comes.
All right, sorry. Yeah, 3 games, it's hard to say right now. But in general, obviously AK's made some splash plays. He's been able to get pressure. He's been able to get a sack. Tar Burton, we kind of know what we're getting with him. He's very, very consistent. He's physical as anything. I think he would like to, and we need him to be a little bit more disruptive in the passing game from a pass rush perspective. And Jesse, for a guy that really hasn't done a whole lot of this, has probably been a pleasant surprise. We thought he'd be pretty good, but you never truly know till you get out there and do it. And he's done a nice job so far. So we're going to need those guys to continue grow and evolve as the year goes on. Yeah, even though we have had success with the portal, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a huge fan and believer in it. I guess there's a time and place for everything. I guess we probably view it like a lot of people do. Almost like junior college players, like the situation we have with Lackawanna, where you're trying to maybe fill a void that you have, especially in the upper class, while you're waiting for a younger guy to develop and grow and mature. That's how it's been for us. I wouldn't say we're ever going to be a huge transfer portal team. I wouldn't say we're ever going to be a huge junior college program, but obviously with it having Lackawanna in-state, it's made a lot of sense to us, and I hope it's made sense to them as well. But it's really to fill immediate needs. Maybe you have an injury. Maybe you have a guy that maybe just needs another year of development, and it probably makes more sense for him to be in a complementary role for a year and then be the starter the next year. It helps you with that. Get some immediate impact guys from a veteran, experience, maturity standpoint. Yeah, so we're not really approaching the COVID year at all. We're kind of looking at guys as they were, and then we'll deal with that down the road when the time comes, knowing that there's some flexibility there. But from a redshirt standpoint, as you know, it's kind of fluid. So we kind of have the guys. I sit down with all of them before the season starts, and some guys we say, like Kalen King, that you're going from week 1 on. Some guys are going to have a special teams role, and maybe it grows. Some guys are going to try to hold their red shirt unless there's an injury, and then some guys are clearly just not ready yet. But that changes. Some guys in the beginning of the year that you didn't think were going to factor in, by midseason, they're ready to go, either because they've improved or because there was an injury or a lack of production in front of them. So it could be a combination. So it's really very fluid, but we do track closely like how many games guys have played, because once they get to game 3, you have to make some decisions and be strategic, because you don't want to just burn a guy's year, and at the end of the year you wish and they wish you hadn't. Yeah, I think it normally would, right? Because you get to play a lot of those guys typically early on in some of the out-of-conference games. Kind of got to figure out who people are and then adjust from there. But I don't know if on the road at Wisconsin is the place to figure that out. So, yeah, I think it's been impacted by our schedule. I think that's a fair thing to say. No, I think a couple things. I don't think the philosophy has changed. I think you would prefer to have guys specialize. You'd prefer to have a punter. You'd prefer to have a field goal guy. You'd prefer to have a kickoff guy. Maybe a field goal and a kickoff guy, or 2 of those jobs. But you prefer to have guys specializing. So combination of need and skill set. So we have need. Obviously, losing Adisa changed things. I don't know if we'd be doing that, but losing Adisa changed some things. But we also have some guys that have the skill set to pull it off. I think it's the same thing with Marquise. We have a need and he's got the skill set. He's one of those guys, like, if you're just picking a backyard football team, Marquise is going to be one of the first picks because he literally naturally could play both sides of the ball. Now, being able to handle all the details that come with playing both positions at a high level, because, right, you just can't throw him in and say, run a go, and everybody in the stadium knows every time he goes in, it's a go, and if he's in there, it's probably not a run play. You know, we don't really want to operate like that. But I wouldn't say it's a philosophy change. It's a need right now, and it's a skill set that certain guys have. Well, he's an experienced guy who's played a lot of football. Obviously not here at Penn State, but has played a lot of football. I think he has, maybe a little bit different style, maybe a little bit more quickness, maybe a little bit more juice. Like you mentioned, he goes in there against Auburn first playing time, and the moment wasn't too big for him at all. Again, he's played a lot of football, in his college career so far. So I think you'll continue to see that as a kickoff return guy and as a running back. As he has success, he'll get more opportunities. I'm sorry, a little bit louder. Yeah, I think the first thing is we're doing a pretty good job of bend but don't break defense in general, and we seem to be able to make critical plays at critical moments, very similar to what you've seen with Brisker. He's made some big plays at critical times. I think the other thing is people's playbooks shrink down there. We're pretty good against the run, especially in obvious running situations. And then I think our guys are doing a really good job of playing the ball in the air. I think we got more guys making plays on the ball in the air right now on the defense side of the ball and keeping their poise when the ball's in the air. A lot of times defensive players when the ball's in the air, they get tight, and I hate to use the word panic, but some defensive players do. And I think we have a lot more experience in the secondary. You guys heard me talking about it early on. I felt like I had a chance to be one of our best secondaries. And they're just comfortable and natural. When the ball's in there, I think Joey Porter's play on the sideline, I think, was a really good example the other day. The ball was thrown behind him, and he used those go gadget arms that he got and that he has and kind of got the ball out of there at the last minute. But he was relaxed kind of throughout the whole process. Obviously, Brisker's made some big interceptions. Tig has as well. So I think it's just a combination of all that. Yeah, I think Brandon is obviously super talented. Really has been since high school. We've had a very close relationship with him and his entire family kind of throughout the whole recruiting process. And since he's arrived on campus, he continues to grow, not only each year but by week, playing different positions, which also helps him as well. He played out to the field last year predominantly, and now is playing into the boundary. So I think that's helped his overall understanding and confidence. But I see Brandon getting better every single day. And I think you'll continue to see that as the season goes on. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Brandon. We took all these guys to the lake this summer. I mean, he looks like he was made like in a lab. Like if you were trying to build a Frankenstein linebacker, I mean, that's how it would be. I mean, he's as impressive of a young man on the field and off. He's killing it academically. He's doing a really good job. I'm really proud of him. I think you'll continue to see him, have success this season and moving forward. Yeah, I think that it's not much of a surprise. I mean, obviously you got two different situations. We lost Micah last year because of the way the season was handled by the Big Ten. But obviously you guys know, we all know what a difference maker he is. I think he was a steal at 12. I think Dallas got a steal at 12. And then Jason, obviously, there's a lot of conversations about him and his athleticism and maybe, a lot of discussions about production, specifically when it came to sacks. But everybody that I could talk to and have interactions with about Jason and what I thought his future was like, I was pounding the table for him. So there's nobody in our building that is surprised by the success that either one of them are having. Thanks, guys.
That's head coach James Franklin addressing the local media following Wednesday's practice, as we now welcome in junior linebacker Brandon Smith. And Brandon, coach was just talking about your relationship between the two of you, but what makes your relationship with head coach James Franklin so special?
Just from the very beginning of it, throughout the recruiting process, really since the first time we even came on campus, like it just felt like home in general. The way everybody was greeted from not only Coach Franklin but the rest of the staff as well, it just felt like it was just a place for it to be. And even going through the process, and when he came home, I had a whole bunch of family over, and it was just a great time in general. So that kind of thing just really started from back in high school.
Of course, the first couple of years, especially last year, you're out playing the field, as James referenced, and then you moved, obviously, more inside. Jack Ham has talked to me about this many times, that when he was a senior, he moved from the outside to the inside. He said it took him a couple of games to get used to the traffic pattern. How different is the traffic pattern, and how long did it take for you to get used to it?
Everything is just happening so quickly when you're in the inside. When you're out in the space, you're kind of just like, oh, okay, I see it developing, and then boom, you just go and shoot then. When you're in the box, you got to go right then and there. Like, there's no time to wait.
Let's get a question for Brandon Smith from our Facebook audience. Guys, we're going to have like an on-air production meeting right now. Let's shift to the left right here. Love that. All right, so Coach Franklin was talking about the defensive line during his press conference. In your opinion, what makes them such a lethal threat so far this season?
Motor is nothing but motor, and will to want to actually just go ahead and just shoot your gap, know your responsibility, and not be denied in general. Those guys, PJ, Tangelo, Tarbird, and the AK, Jesse, all of them really just have a motor that is out of this world.
Arnold Ebiketie continues to be a name that Penn State fans are getting to know. We see what he can do on the field, but off the field, you get to spend some time with him on that defensive side. Yeah. What makes him his personality?
He's just a funny dude to be around. He's just really full of life. And I even in an earlier interview today, was asked about Tangelo, and he's the same way. Those guys are just full of life, always bringing a smile on your face, and really just fun to be around.
And what are those guys up front doing to set you up? I mean, sometimes they can shoot a gap and make a play, but what are they doing at times to set you up?
Putting pressure. When you shoot off the ball the way they do, it really forces the offensive lineman to really just hold on the blocks a lot longer and really help each other more, because obviously,
they're almost like blocking for you.
Exactly, yeah. So really, it gives me more time to, for one, develop. Really not really develop, but process what is going on in the play, and obviously my gap will be wide open. So it gives me enough time to shoot the gap if I need to shoot the gap, or if any of the safeties or anybody is coming down, it gives them an opportunity as well.
You're making more plays every week. More plays every week. Now the depth of a drop of a linebacker, that's something also you have to get used to. Mm-hmm. What does it do for your vision when you have the right depth?
Oh, it gives you a clear view of obviously what the play is, and just where your fit is, and just what all is going on in general. Yeah, it really just makes the game slow down and makes it a lot easier.
This being your junior season, how has the game slowed down for you with a couple of years underneath your belt?
Many reps and lots of film, lots of film. Making the switch from Sam to Will definitely gave me a different perspective as far as the two different types of linebackers and just the responsibilities between the two. And once you know more about the defense in general, the quicker you'll be, the better that you'll be as far as recognizing plays, and then everything speaks from there.
All right, this is your last chance to submit some questions for Brandon Smith. I don't know, are you a Facebook guy at all, Brandon?
No, not really.
Not really. All right, so this one comes from Brad. He wants to know, does it help playing LB with a stacked DB room behind you?
Oh, it definitely does. It really gives you, how should I say this?
Confidence.
Yeah, it gives you the confidence in knowing that if you were to make an error, that you got a great group of guys behind you that'll definitely make you right.
A sense of security.
Yeah, there you go. Security.
Sense of security. How about playing inside Beaver Stadium in that Penn State whiteout last weekend? How electric was that from your perspective?
I was just about to say electric before you even said it. It's definitely electric crowd, and really, I just want to thank everybody that came out and really gave us all that support. Even though my throat was hurting for I don't know how many days because I was yelling and couldn't get my guys' attention, but that crowd was crazy. I really appreciate it.
That's junior linebacker Brandon Smith joining us on the PSECU weekly game preview. Brandon, appreciate your time and good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, let's go back and take a look at those highlights one more time from this past weekend as we get you set for Penn State and Villanova. This is last weekend. This is Sean Clifford over the middle to the tight end Brenton Strange. This was just the beginning of the tight end connection. As you see right here, Theo Johnson getting the crew down to about the 4-yard line. Steve, what impressed you about the tight end play within Penn State?
Well, all three made plays, and they had 6 catches for 130 yards, and it sets up this touchdown pass to Jahan Dotson in the back. The offensive line, the way they protected. Now you look at defense. All right, so now, of course, there's Bigsby. That's a heck of a running back right there. I mean, let's not get around it. Play action fake here. Steps up, looks, makes the play downfield. Look at Dotson. Climbs the ladder.
Ridiculous.
Climbs the ladder. That's the best wide receiver in the country right there. Said that today at Quarterback Club. Mean it. I mean, I'm looking around thinking, who's better than this guy? All right, so now let's have Dotson throw it. 284.5 passer rating after that, and the first catch of Tyler Warren's career. And look at this. Off the fake, there's Brenton Strange for the touchdown, sliding out from that tight end spot to make that play right there. And that's where Penn State took the lead that they never relinquished. Here's Derek Tangelo's play here. Hudson just drops the ball, but Congo is there to make the play. And it doesn't take long to cash in this 20-yard drive. Look at that. Now look how Sean uses his shoulders. Look at that catch right over the middle. All right, so what the heck? Now you're in close. Warren, up over the top, touchdown, Penn State. So your tight end has some ups, too.
That shoulder fake from Sean Clifford, as you were about to allude to, I mean, the fact that the pump fake, rather, how have you seen him progressively get better and better with that play fake?
He's using his shoulder. Look at that play by Ellis Brooks. That shoulder, and he's using his eyes. Right? He is now getting people confused in the secondary by shoulder and eyes. And then here's the throwback to Lovett. Look at this. Nice little block in the back right there on the back side of the play. And Lovett, he's got that added jump in this offense. Boom, there we go. This is where they split out Caden Wallace. And they get the ball to Strange, and Brenton gets a 40-yard play.
Not your everyday look there.
No, and this is where they crossed him up. Auburn is thinking pass on third down, and they come back with the running play. Mike made a great call on that one. The coverage on this is outstanding. Hudson pulled down. He actually pulled down Brisker. And so you see bodies go down. It's because the receiver pulled down the safety. But again, Penn State gets in the red zone. Everything tightens up down there, and Penn State's defense continues to make plays. 28-20,
the final score in that one as Penn State now shifts their attention to Villanova, who is also 3-0 at this point in the season. From your perspective and your film study thus far, what stuck out about Villanova?
Well, again, you're watching. Here's Daniel Smith, the quarterback. He's the sixth-year guy. Great experience, can run the ball. Right? Makes plays on the move. There's a good pass play over the middle, another big play, and this is their game against Richmond. They had a lot of control in this game until the third quarter. They gave up 24 points in the third quarter, but they turned the game around eventually. But the third quarter was a tough quarter for them. Now Villanova has to battle back. And here's Smith on the bootleg, now flies in. The kid's just a determined player. And Covington, number 1, is a very good running back. Good play here. Now here's where he – like play action. Now you're going to give the ball here, and there's Covington. This is what he can do. He's able to get through holes. He's got enough speed to make plays. And the other guy, let's flip it to the defensive side. Watch for 41, Christian Benford. 41, Christian Benford right there. That's his 4th interception of the season. He has 11 career interceptions along the way. And Villanova is a +8 giveaway takeaway so far this season with 11 takeaways and only 3 giveaways. And that's one of the reasons they've had great success to this point.
Your X factor for Penn State this weekend, without giving away your player to watch for the Unrivaled pregame show on Saturday, is what?
Well, okay, I'll pick a player, as you and I talked earlier. I'll go with the offensive line. I think the offensive line, Mike Miranda, Juice Scruggs, obviously Eric Wilson, Caden Wallace, and Rasheed Walker, Mixon, Bryce Effner. They protected Sean so well last week. He only got hit, I think, one time on a pass play the entire time. The protection was great. As time goes, they're going to get better and better on the running game part of it. That's what you want to see help develop again this week, get that part going. But the offensive line, I think, is the key. They set the tone for the entire operation.
Well, speaking of quarterback Sean Clifford, we had the opportunity to catch up with offensive coordinator Mike Yursich to pick his brain about what makes the quarterback, number 14, so good and an impressive stat line this past weekend.
Clifford zips it into a slant, caught, Dodson.
Quarterback Sean Clifford completed 87.5% of his passing attempts last weekend, marking the highest completion percentage by a Penn State QB in 25 years. Mitch Gerber alongside offensive coordinator Mike Yursich. Coach, in your opinion, what was the driving factor behind Sean's success in Week 3?
Well, I think quarterback play is very reflective of overall team performance. So I think it's everybody's responsibility to do their job, and when they do it makes it a lot easier for the quarterback. It starts with pass protection. Taking care of the line of scrimmage. Our guys did a phenomenal job up front. Anytime you have that much time to see down the field, you should be able to complete a high percentage of your passes. But the receivers running crisp routes, catching the ball. But ultimately, Cliff needs a lot of credit. He's worked really hard. He deserves all the accolades that he has achieved, and I'm excited for him and excited to see him grow. He's come a far way in a short period of time, and I can't wait to see how much further we can go.
Clifford shuffling, delivers, wide open, Dotson, touchdown!
You mentioned you're excited to see him continue to grow. How have you seen his confidence continue to bolster in this Penn State offense through 3 weeks?
You know, Cliff's always had a bunch of confidence ever since the day I met him, so I've never really seen that falter or waver in any way, but it is nice to see the rhythm that he's having and see him get in the groove. And, you know, what I really like about Sean is his poise coming on and off the field, whether it's a good series or not so good series. He's right where he needs to be, right in that middle ground area from a mental standpoint, from an emotional standpoint. And he is an emotional guy. But yet when the game comes, he's able to channel that energy and to stay even-keeled, which is really critical in quarterback play.
Mike Yursich right now has a quarterback that's playing his best game of his career as a starter.
From a mental standpoint and that emotional standpoint, how have you seen number 14 approach each day with that chip on the shoulder?
You know, there's an edge to him, and I think he's able to take that negative energy and turn it into positive energy. And I think the players, his teammates, they rally around him, and I think that's big. That's really important. I think the team chemistry that we have, the support that he gets from the defense, the offensive players, from this coaching staff is very important, as it is to everybody, you know. But his energy has been great. Anything that may have been a criticism of him, or, I mean, we're all going to be criticized in this game.
The guy's taken a lot of criticism. He's won a lot of football games. That's my quarterback.
You have to embrace that, and you have to learn how to turn the momentum there and psychologically get over that and use it as a weapon. And I think he's found that, and he's done that.
There's been plenty to embrace about the success of his play so far this season. What do you still want to see him specifically improve upon?
You know, continued footwork needs to continue to improve, and just making sure that we're on our read keys with our eyes. We always say if your feet are right and your eyes are right, you have a really good chance. But if your feet are wrong or if your eyes are wrong, it becomes very difficult to be successful on any given play. So we're always focused on those things. Those are the fundamentals of this offense, the fundamentals of quarterback play. We'll always focus on that. But I want to just see continued growth and continued success. And, you know, sometimes the success, it comes in increments, and you know, there's certain plateaus, and we wanted to see this thing steadily incline and see his performance continue to grow.
Sean Clifford and that Penn State offense will get another opportunity to showcase their talents this Saturday against Villanova. An 87.5% completion percentage for Sean Clifford that past game. What impressed you about number 14's play?
Well, that probably works. No, you're on the biggest stage against a really good football team, and he just kept making plays. He had time to make plays. His offensive line gave him time. Sean was the first one in the postgame show with Jack and myself to just talk about his offensive line and what they did. He obviously has a wide variety to choose from out there. Parker Washington caught 8 balls. Keandre Lambert-Smith caught 5. Of course, we know Jahan had a career-high 10. We mentioned earlier the tight ends at 6 catches for 130. John Lovett got into the act catching a pass in the ball game. And that's not the last time we'll see him do that. He utilized everybody, and he's seeing the field really well. When we're talking about the shoulder fake or we're talking what he's doing with his eyes, it's because he has command of what the field is, and he has an idea where he wants to go, and he wants to either with the shoulder or the eyes tell you, I'm going here. No, I'm not. I'm actually going here. And that's when you have that kind of poise and command out there, and that's what he's showing right now.
Well, Penn State will be back in action this Saturday, which includes Penn State's offense and quarterback Sean Clifford at noon Eastern on the Big Ten Network. And fans, don't forget to join us for the Unrivaled pregame show starting at 9 a.m. Eastern time from Team Arrival. So if you're going to be at this weekend's game, come join Steve and I, have some fun with us behind stage, side of the stage, whatever it might be, and then watch the Penn State Nittany Lions enter Beaver Stadium for the what is this, the third consecutive weekend?
Third consecutive
weekend.
And by the way, there's fewer than 1,500 tickets available, all right, at this point, which is great. And also remember, the two-way traffic pattern, they're going to change that to one-way at 8:30. So the two-way traffic pattern will change to 8:30 this week coming in. So just keep that in mind. It'll go one-way starting at 8:30. Just to make your trip in easier. And all of you have done a phenomenal job with the electronic tickets. And here, obviously, are the pathways into the stadium and the zones.
Just as Steve mentioned, be sure to download those mobile tickets now this week before doing so at the stadium. I can tell you that the cell coverage, internet connection is not fantastic, so be sure to download those tickets ahead of time to your Apple Wallet or Google Pay.
In fact, do it now.
Well, why not?
I mean, do it now since we're reminding you. Just you know how it goes now. It's your third consecutive week. It's probably getting pretty easy for all of you.
No doubt. So go do it now. Show's over. That does it for this edition of the PSECU weekly game preview between Penn State and Villanova.
This is the day. We will know a whole lot by the time the dust settles.
Welcome
back to Happy Valley.
Everything matters. That's where we win right here. But on the field.
But where we want to be at the end of the season starts with our mentality and our attention to detail today.